Hi there, Charles here with Future Knowledge. The episode you're about to listen to was actually recorded back prior to the Ahsoka premiere dropping, and we've just kind of been sitting on it for months waiting for the strikes to end. Obviously, this is going to make the episode a bit odd to listen to since it references things that happened back in the summer, but we wanted to get the thoughts recorded then for posterity. Like, we talk about how we don't really know if Hayden's going to be in the show, and obviously he is. We talk about some marketing material we didn't really have context for. We are super wrong about the mysterious Inquisitor. It's all things like that. Obviously, I can't drop a future knowledge every single time we say something that turned out to be wrong, but I do hope y'all enjoy listening to us be wrong. We'll be back to being right next week when we dig into the Ahsoka show for real.
Hello, and welcome to the show Goldsquadrongays. It's the podcast where two Star Wars loving gays break down each episode of their favorite Star Wars TV shows while also being gay as hell. I'm your host, Bradley Brower.
I'm your other host, Charles Rogers, and welcome to the future, whatever that is.
The future.
The wonderful future. I'm sure that you guys have fixed everything. You guys, you managed to fix all the damage caused by capitalism. We're now living in a glorious utopia where everybody has free healthcare and universal basic income, and Star Wars shows release at a reasonable hour of the day so that everybody can watch them. I'm sure it's great. I'm sure it's fantastic and not still a blighted capitalist hellscape where we cling to any small shred of joy that we can to keep ourselves going in this miserable, miserable world.
I mean, I guess since everybody has seen the show by now, you know, it has solved racism, it has solved capitalism, it has solved everything.
All the problems are solved.
Cured everything.
All the problems are solved. Everything's solved. I'm so glad for all of that. No, we are. This is kind of a weird episode in that we don't know when you will be listening to it because as of recording the episode, Ahsoka is going to come out in 3 days. Bradley? Ish. It's Wednesday. Now it's Tuesday night.
Right.
Something. We don't know when it's going to come out. But we are recording this episode ahead of time because we can't. It's debatable whether or not we're going to actually talk about the show, but you definitely won't hear this episode during the SAG-AFTRA strike, because this is not a review. But we're recording it ahead of time because we wanted to get our honest predictions and thoughts, and part of the fun of the episode 0 is looking back later and seeing how badly did we do on this. We know we're not going to be reviewing the show right as it comes out. It's questionable whether or not we will. I'm feeling optimistic about the WGA strike. They're currently negotiating as we are recording this episode, but we will see how far we end up pushing Ahsoka. This episode was recorded genuinely 3 days before Ahsoka actually came out. So Bradley, are you excited?
I am elated for this show. We have been waiting for this show ever since we called it back when we did our Mandalorian Season 2 coverage.
Yes.
We talked about the Ahsoka episode in The Mandalorian, and we were like, you know what? This is clearly just a backdoor pilot for a Ahsoka show that Dave wants to do. And wouldn't you know it, only God, how long has it been since that show came out?
Mandalorian Season 2, that would have been 2021?
So 2 years ago-ish.
2 years-ish ago. It was just coming out when we started this podcast.
Right.
I think it would have been early 2021. Yeah, I don't remember whether or not they had announced. When did they announce the Ahsoka show? They announced the Ahsoka show. It would have had to have been early 2021 as well. So it may have been late 2020. It was late 2020.
Got it.
It was late 2020 that the Ahsoka episode would have come out. But yes, we did correctly predict that episode was basically just the backdoor pilot to this. And lo and behold, the Ahsoka show is coming out.
Here it comes. I'm so excited.
I am beyond excited for Rebels Season 4.5.
No, I really am. And actually, as of this recording, the review embargo has lifted for the show. So we've seen, I haven't gone in detail of the reviews or anything like that, but I've seen a few quick little paragraphs about it. And a lot of them do say, if you liked Rebels, this is legitimately Rebels Season 5, or at least the first 2 episodes are.
Yeah, I've also heard the same thing. I've talked to some of the people that got screeners. We didn't get screeners, but I talked to some people that did, and they basically said, "Yeah, this is Rebels. If this is more Rebels, if you like Rebels, you'll like this." The communication I got from them seemed to be that this does still focus, really heavily on Ahsoka, since the show is called Ahsoka. I don't know if you guys knew this, but she's the main character of the show. What's so bizarre to me, though, and it's so interesting because I was remarking this to my boyfriend yesterday. We were driving along the highway and we saw like a billboard for Ahsoka. They're all over, by the way. They're
Really?
all over LA right now.
Oh, that's awesome.
There's one right outside my gym. There's like multiple ones on my way to work. The Starbucks I go to right at on the weekends, I'm walking to it. Big, like, 10-story tall Ahsoka Tano greets me as I ascend the hill for the final push to that Starbucks. And I was remarking to my boyfriend, it's so interesting because I was there in 2008 when this character premiered. And I remember how a lot of people fucking hated Ahsoka Tano
Obliterated her,
when
yeah.
they premiered. I remember how much I fucking hated Ahsoka Tano when she premiered because I was very toxic and had some very toxic opinions.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I did not have Twitter, so those opinions will never see the light of day.
That's
And
so
I was
funny.
smart enough to pull my review of the Clone Wars movie because I recognized that I was like, this is not an objective review of this movie. This is just
Right.
me complaining for 5 paragraphs about how it's not Star Wars that I wanted. But it's just so weird and nice to see her have moved from this very controversial character when she first came out to just the love that she's been embraced with, to now she's on these billboards and she's getting her own show. And there was an interview with Ashley Eckstein that I watched on TikTok where she was like, yeah, originally they were going to kill Ahsoka off at the end of the Clone Wars. And they were debating, no, you sent it to me. You sent this to me because she was going to get killed off by Ventress.
And we were like, what?
But she remarks later in that interview clip, she says, like, around season 4 or 5-ish of the show, the conversation sort of shifted from how's Ahsoka gonna die to Ahsoka lives, right?
Right.
Ahsoka's alive, right? And she said that was the moment she knew that Ahsoka was gonna survive to the end of the Clone Wars. And I'm so glad she did and Rex did.
Right.
Maul kind of. I could have taken her left Maul. But that's just so interesting to me, looking at the way she's been treated by the fan culture going back to 2008 and all the way up to now, and just how people have come to embrace her over time. And it's just really cool to see her getting her own show and also getting prominently featured in things. Like, you're expected to know who this woman is. Even my boyfriend, who had never watched a Star Wars before we watched Rebels, he knew who Ahsoka Tano was.
Right.
He was aware of who this person was. So I think that the presence of this show in popular culture is really cool and good. And at time of recording, it is killing me that I can't talk about it in public.
Right.
Killing me right now that the AMPTP won't just pay their fucking people.
I mean, eventually we will talk about it. It's just because, it can't last forever. But it is kind of frustrating that we can't go right into it immediately, because I know we're going to have a lot of opinions and a lot of things to say when this all finally comes out.
Oh boy, longtime listeners of the show will remember the 2.5-hour slog that was just Bradley and I going through the Ahsoka episode of Mandalorian.
I mean, and I plan on keeping every single thing in those episodes. I don't plan on cutting anything unless it's a tangent. I really don't, because honestly, one, I feel like the review, it needs the respect that it deserves. And then two, because there's going to be so much content, because this is officially the first truly all Dave show. And Dave has a lot that he likes to include in every single thing that he does, and it's usually he has to cut stuff because it's so much stuff. So I'm excited to let kind of they gave him the reins to kind of just do whatever he wants, and then let's see what happens.
Yeah, and he's also an animation guy, generally an animation guy. So there is not a frame of time in a Dave Filoni joint that is wasted. And that is one thing I will say about him. I have Dave complimentary and Dave derogatory. I will say one of the Dave complimentary things are his episodes are so exhausting to review.
Yes.
just because he does not waste a single moment of time.
It's a
at
blink
all.
and you miss it kind of thing. Like if you don't pay attention, if you're on your phone during the episode, you're going to miss stuff. Like
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I think that comes back to animation where he has 22 minutes on Cartoon Network to tell this story. He has to move from one point to the next one, and that's how you end up with these shows that go back and watch these episodes like J Guys and Jedi, Dark Side Divas, First Steps of Star Wars podcast. They'll get 22-minute episodes and they'll turn it into 2 hours.
yeah,
Because there's
it's
just so
easy.
much there. And watching the trailers for Ahsoka, I get the sense that Ahsoka is very much the same way. That it's going to be one of those where there's not an ounce that's wasted. Speaking of not an ounce being wasted, can we talk about the fucking stacked ass cast for this
Yes.
show and
Oh
all
my
of the
God.
characters? I'm sure our first episode's going to be like 3.5 hours long.
I mean,
I
just talking
swear
about
it's
the
gonna be.
cast alone, it's going to be like, okay, we're going to have every new character on screen. Like, thankfully, we probably don't really need to go super hard in Rosario Dawson or Hayden Christensen or anything like that. Like, you know, if mentioned or brought up,
Asterisk, asterisk. We don't 100% know Hayden Christensen will be in the show, but we kind of 100% know Hayden Christensen will be in the show.
Well, yeah, true. Unofficially, we know, but non-officially, we don't
I
really know
will.
for sure.
If Hayden Christensen shows up on the screen and calls Ahsoka Snips, I will set myself on fire and run into the ocean. And to be clear, this episode is premiering, the first 2 episodes are premiering in the middle of a tropical storm here in LA. I'm still going to do that if that happens.
Oh my God, I love it.
I remember a promo came out with like the Matt Lanter voice lines from Rebels, from the episode where she's watching the thing, but it didn't really sound like Matt, so some people were speculating that it might be Hayden had re-recorded that dialogue. I never got confirmation one way or the other on whether or not it was Hayden or Matt.
Gotcha.
But yes, that was a tangent. Returning to the cast list, we probably won't get too into like Rosario Dawson and
Yeah,
Hayden
I think it's a pretty
Christensen.
obvious one there. Yeah, we can kind
Genevieve O'Reilly is in this.
Mhm.
Mon Mothma is here, to the delight of me and
So good.
the 4 other people on Twitter who are obsessed with her.
I can't wait. I mean, honestly, and even when they announced some of the cast members, or I think it was just Natasha, they announced, and that was pretty much it. When back in
Natasha
was it?
Liu Bordizzo
right,
was going to be Sabine Wren. We're going to see how far, by the way, I'm making into coverage before I accidentally call Sabine Satine.
oh,
Especially since Hera is being played by Mary Elizabeth Winstead,
right.
who is Ewan McGregor's wife.
There's just so many. It's like, stop! Like, what are you guys doing to us? Like,
Have you seen the clip that came out? This was like yesterday.
yes.
Oh my God, she's so perfect.
Okay, so we got to talk about this. Okay,
She's so perfect.
We've just talked about how there was no wasted time on screen. The clip that just came out that Charles is talking about, I don't know the name of the clip, but it features 2
Dual
scenes.
blade or whatever.
Right, it features 2 different scenes. One of them is of Hera and Chopper in some kind of plane, or in the, what are they in? Are they in the Phantom?
They're in the Phantom.
They're in the Phantom, and they're being chased or pursued or whatever. Amazing scene. Chopper chews the scene already, and he's barely in it.
Oh,
and then-
he's brilliant. He's
like, oh my God.
incredible. Some of the like movement of this character, I'm like, yeah, that's Chopper. That's Chopper. That's him.
It's so good. And we've gotten Chopper live action, I put in air quotes, because he was barely in Rogue One for like a hot second. And there is that weird after show thing that was on, I think, when Rebels was
Rebels
on.
Recon. We'll talk about that at some point when we run out of content. We will talk about Rebels. Right now we're busy going through Visions in our off time.
Right, exactly. But he just looks so good, and the movement and it's almost like he's the best person to be translated from animation, like out of this whole entire cast. Not that they don't all look good, but like he seems to be like, I mean, there's no way you could have gotten that any better.
This is the Chopper show. This show is about Chopper.
I think it's going to be Chopper.
The show is for him. But you were saying that there's so much packed into this 30-second clip, and one of them is like Hera talking to Chopper. And I'm like, because I remember at the time we were like, why didn't you just cast Vanessa Marshall? Which I do still kind of wish they'd done. Yeah. Like I will forever be like, you should offer the part to whoever played it first, as long as visually, it makes
works,
sense
right.
for them to be in it, and Vanessa Marshall would have worked. But Mary Elizabeth Winstead in that clip, she just radiates hair. Like, she gets it. And the actors who've given interviews and things that were like, I watched Rebels, I did this, just to see what had been done with the character before. And obviously they want to make the character their own. They don't want to just do the Rebels character, just do like an imitation. But a lot of the big ones do seem to be familiar enough with Rebels that they're able to capture a lot of the same mannerisms that the animators did, and a lot of the same vocal tone that the original voice actors did, which is very cool.
I love it.
I'm feeling great about that. I would love for Zeb to show up at some point, but I don't know if that's going to happen.
I have a sneaky suspicion that it's going to be like, I think he will show up. I think it'll just be a 1 episode thing. Like, he'll be there for a second, because I know what they want to do. I feel it in my brain that they want to do one shot of the whole Ghost crew minus, someone. Spoilers for Rebels.
R.I.P. to Kanan Jarrus.
Spoilers for Rebels if you already haven't watched it.
If you haven't watched Rebels somehow.
So I think they do want to do. There's going to be a shot where the whole crew is back together at some point in this show. I don't know if it'll happen maybe in the finale, or if it'll happen like randomly, or maybe it'll be everybody but maybe Ezra for plot reasons. But they do want to. I'm sure they want to do a family reunion shot at some point.
Did I ever tell you, Bradley, about that time I got brunch tipsy and came home and watched Solo and cried about the Wookiees? No. I've told you this story. I went to brunch with my boyfriend. We had several bottomless mimosas, came home, watched Solo, and then I got to thinking about how Chewbacca wouldn't see his family for 30 years and legitimately started crying. Did I tell you about this?
Oh, wait a minute. It's all coming back to me now.
Yeah. I have a feeling I'm going to cry that hard if the Ghost Crew shows up united in live action on my screen.
Yeah.
Except I won't need the mimosas to do that. I will simply cry that hard because I am emotional about the Rebels crew.
Yeah, I think also, I don't know if this will happen on this. I keep saying this season like it's not gonna get another season, because at this point I'm pretty confident just the hype around the show alone, and they're gonna have to do another one. Like, I don't know, I just feel like it's gonna happen regardless.
I feel very confident about more Ahsoka.
I'm very confident. I think before they were pitching it as like a mini series, and now I feel like it's just more of an open-ended, like, if we do another season, we do another season, kind of thing. And
yep,
I feel like that's definitely gonna happen. So I say that to say I don't think Rex will show up in this season. However, they could surprise me. But
I think he will if they do flashbacks. That's my thing. They will if it's flashbacks. Then they'll have Rex in it.
Okay, so I will say if he shows up, that would be a de-aged Tim would be something that would get me. I feel like that would get me.
That would get you.
Yeah, I think so.
I fully believe,
especially if he's on screen with Ahsoka, like maybe a younger Ahsoka, if they cast a younger Ahsoka, which we haven't really talked about if they would do that or not. But
we don't want to talk too much about like leaks and rumors and things on the show. I heard some rumblings about that, and even the name of an actress thrown around.
Oh, really?
But I don't think we ever got additional confirmation, so I'm not prepared to present that as a thing that we explicitly know, nor can I in good conscience pretend to predict that myself. Right. So,
because I definitely think
I've heard
when
that.
We talk about,
I think it's likely.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, if we talk about the Hayden Christensen of it all, there's obviously 2 options there with Hayden Christensen. It's like, do we do a flashback scene of some kind where I guess they could de-age him. He looks pretty good, so I don't know if they'll go like super crazy with it, but probably kind of do what they did in Kenobi, just kind of make him look a little younger with the haircut, I guess. But I think they'd give him shaggy hair anyway.
He would have shaggy hair because he has shaggy hair at that point. Right. Yeah, he's already got the Revenge of the Sith hair.
Right. So I think if they did do some kind of flashback, that's an option. However, I think the more likely option would be, I don't think they'll do Force Ghost, but they could. I think they'll do more of like an echoing in her head kind of thing. Not necessarily like a he's alive kind of situation, more of a this is my like remembrance of him kind of echoing. Like, I don't think
I have my own theory.
Okay.
Do you want to hear my slightly insane theory?
Sure, give it to me.
So I know we talk about the world between worlds a lot, but I'm just saying that's a thing.
Okay.
I think we're gonna see the flashbacks not in the narrative itself, I think Ahsoka's literally going to see them in the world, but she's going to have to go into the world between worlds.
Right.
Or it's going to open with her in the world between worlds, and we're going to see how she got out of it to get back to Malachor, where we see her at in season 4. Where, remember, she goes into Malachor, and we have no idea how she gets off this place. We have no
Right.
idea how long she's there. So I think it's going to open with her on Malachor, and she's been there for like 3 years. And what's to say? Balin's skull shows up, and that's how she manages to get off. That's my theory.
Interesting. I like that theory. And it actually, I'm not trying to like switch topics all of a sudden, but you lead us into the new characters a little bit, which is
Yeah,
a good
let's talk
segue.
about some of the new
We
characters.
should talk about some of the new characters because that's actually a really good segue.
We have on the villain side, we have Balin Skull, played by the late great Ray Stevenson. Rest in peace. You will be missed, and I'm looking forward to seeing your final performance here. I forget. Let me look up really fast who is playing. So we have Shin Hati,
Right.
played by Ivana Sakno.
Sakno? Yeah, I was trying to say
Sakno,
the
I
last
believe
name.
is. We
I'm sure,
apologize
yeah,
for the
well,
name.
we'll learn it eventually.
She's a Ukrainian American actress. Now, the name gives me the ick for this character. The fact that her character is named Shin gives me the ick. I can't really explain why.
Right.
I'm currently talking to somebody who is more of an expert in the reason the name gives me the ick, and I will talk about it when we get to her in the actual show. Because I also do want to see what they do with her in the show, because I could just be being reactionary to Dave using words he doesn't understand again. Hello, the Clone Wars. So I'm interested to see this character. We'll put it that way. And then of course we have the return of Morgan Elsbeth, played by the incomparable Deanna Lee Inosanto. I did not look up that. Let me.
No, that's right.
Inosanto. Sorry,
Santo.
I did not look up Inosanto. Deanna Lee Inosanto is returning as Morgan Elsbeth. And of course we have one more villain. Bradley.
No idea who is playing.
we have no idea anything. No, Grand Admiral Thrawn is back, played once again by Lars Mikkelsen.
Yes, of course.
And Twitter has lost its mind and has been losing its mind for weeks over the return of this character, which is a really interesting villain lineup. The former Jedi, his Padawan, whatever the fuck's going on with Morgan Elsbeth, and then Thrawn.
Right. There's so many. Yeah. We really don't quite understand why there's so many villains, and we don't know who's playing this character, but also the random Inquisitor character.
The random Inquisitor that's here, which I think
like
Bradley and I have been fighting. We have been fighting in the DMs for weeks. We have been fighting about this character because I am fully convinced that is the eighth brother.
Okay, so we should wait. We need to write. We need to write down all of our things. I'm gonna get a piece of paper right now. Okay. We need to write down every single character that we think that this person could be, and we need to see who's right. And this will be our time capsule right here.
This will be our time capsule,
who
right?
we think the Inquisitor is when they inevitably reveal who it is at some point.
Keeping us honest. Here's genuinely who we're putting our money on, our invisible credits that don't exist. I think it's the eighth brother.
Eighth brother. I think, okay, so I agree with you in the sense that would be the safest and most boring choice to do. And I do believe that is probably the case in this situation, only because he seems to be just a non-important part of the story. He just seems to be, it's probably just the first 2 episodes. It's just a plot point.
Right.
And it's like,
actually,
look.
Pin really quickly for our listeners who maybe haven't watched Rebels in a while. The eighth brother was the Inquisitor that shows up on Malachor hunting Maul. He's only in the Twilight of the Apprentice episodes. He tries to jump away with his spinning lightsaber as a helicopter. It breaks and he crashes and presumably dies. That is who we're talking about. Sorry, Bradley, continue.
So I think it's a boring option, but the sheer fact that the Inquisitor character, who is known as Maruk, I don't know how to say it. That's just the name that they gave them for this show, probably because there is no Inquisitoress at this time, so therefore they don't have their fifth brother name anymore. So he just took on the name Maruk or Merrick or whatever it is. But because it's played by a stunt person is the only reason why I feel so strongly that this is probably just the fifth brother.
Eighth brother.
I'm
Eighth
sorry,
brother.
eighth brother.
The fifth brother is that giant
That's right. I forget.
Russian sounding motherfucker.
No, but the fact that it's played by a stunt person is probably indicative of the fact that it's not that he's not an important character, but because the reveal under the mask is probably not that important in this case. It could be. That's one theory. The other theory, which is my kind of stronger theory, is that it's a very important person and the person who is underneath is casted. However, they don't want to give away the fact that it's this person because that's going to be the big reveal at the end of the show.
Who do you think it is? Who do you think it is, Bradley?
My second strongest theory is that it's got to be Ezra Bridger.
That is a hot theory. Please explain your logic.
So here's my thing. Ezra, we don't know what happens to Ezra when he goes off in the end of Rebels because him and Thrawn get yeeted off into space by space whales. We don't really know what happens to them. Now, we know Thrawn is alive because we literally see him in the trailer.
We literally see him in the trailer, yes.
Spoiler alert, he survived. Also, the sheer fact that they even bothered to cast somebody that is an actual actor to play Ezra, even though we've only seen him in the trailer as a hologram, and the fact that they went to the lengths to hire somebody that decently is an actor, you know what I mean, that could possibly appear in other episodes. I'm going to go with the fact that this is kind of like a long-term casting situation. Like they wanted to prepare for him to show up more and not just you look vaguely like Ezra as a real person casting. Because I feel like with that, they could have just chosen really anybody. But I feel like this person, it's just, I don't know. I feel like they were kind of thinking long-term.
I agree with that part of it, at least, that some of these people that they have cast, you can kind of tell when a TV show is doing a little bit of stunt casting, i.e. we're going to cast a person like Jack Black, who is not going to appear in more than one episode because this person is extremely busy, versus we've cast somebody that we can get under contract for 3 seasons of TV plus a movie.
Right. And that's just my deductive reasoning of why I think it's Ezra, only because now the reason why he's quote unquote an inquisitor or slash I'm putting in air quotes evil, because he's dressed all black, so it must be evil.
He's all black and has a red lightsaber. Yeah, he's a bad guy. This is the Star Wars code for bad guy.
So it could be one of two things. I think one could be for sure, like a double agent kind of situation, that's not that unheard of for Ezra to do. He likes, if I've been watching Rebels recently and he does very much so dress up in the other side's outfits all the time to blend in kind of thing. That's kind of this thing. I don't think it'd be that much of a stretch for Ezra to, go out of his way to be quote unquote an inquisitor of some kind, or in this case, more of a bounty hunter, I think, style. I think is what they're kind of going for.
You are just so proud of the fact that you rewatched all of Rebels prior to this show. You are just so proud of this fact.
I'm not done, but I'm very close. I got to hurry up because literally we only have a few more days left.
You're gonna have the me in the parking lot situation. When Rise of Skywalker was about to come out, Disney Plus came out with all of the Star Wars on it in November. Right. And then for a month and a half, I just did nothing but watch Star Wars. I watched all of the movies, all of Clone Wars, all of Rebels, all of Resistance that had come out at that point. It was down to the wire so much I was literally watching the final episodes of Rebels that had been released on my phone in the parking lot of the theater to go see Rise of Skywalker. It's going to be that situation for you.
Yeah, I'm cutting it down to the wire. But anyway, I just thought that I don't know. I just feel like that's one possible situation. My other more prominent theory about it being Ezra is that he's brainwashed in some kind of capacity.
Okay.
Some kind of mind control, some kind of brainwashing. Somehow Thrawn got to him in some kind of way and kind of coerced him.
You think now in the trailers we see Sabine using a lightsaber and being trained by Ahsoka, at least in Jedi fighting techniques. Questionably debatable whether or not Sabine actually has force powers. I do not think so.
Yeah, I think I saw something about that online, and I'm literally watching the show as this stuff is coming out, and they don't really, at least in the show, they don't really indicatively tell you oh, she's force sensitive, but she is just like good at combat because she was
She's
trained by
literally trained
Jedis.
with the dark saber. There's a
Right.
whole episode that one of the best episodes of the show is about her getting trained by the Jedi and learning
Right.
how to fight with the dark saber.
Yeah. So
Dumb people online, watch
right.
Rebels.
So
It's literally in there.
I
You
don't think
don't have to
she's
use the Force to use a lightsaber.
right. I don't think she's force sensitive. I think, well, that's not true. I think everybody's probably a tiny bit force sensitive because we're all the force and the force flows through us and blah, 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 wizards. But,
Finds us and penetrates us. And
right, exactly.
the most
So I think
awkward line ever.
I think she has like the ability to use a weapon of the Jedi. I don't necessarily think she can lift stuff with her mind and all that kind of gobbledygook religion stuff. But I think yeah, she's proficient in a lightsaber because she
So
had literally 3 different Jedi train her in lightsaber dueling.
Here's my question before we had tangented, here's where this was going. Do you think they're setting up a duel between Ezra and Sabine?
No.
No,
I don't.
you don't think those two are gonna fight at some point?
No, because they clearly, with this Shin character, they are setting up essentially a rival to Sabine. It seems to be that way, that she is the rival to Sabine. And because even in the trailer, she tells Sabine in their little battle, she has like a quick line. She says, "You have no real power." So I think Shin knows that she's not force sensitive because she can feel it in the force. And then like she thinks she's better than her, obviously, because she does have the force. But Sabine is holding her own clearly, because she was trained in combat of some capacity. So I don't think they're going to set up Ezra versus Sabine. However, I do think that if this Inquisitor character is Ezra, if he is brainwashed or some kind of capacity, him against Ahsoka is very interesting because, theoretically, Ahsoka is like the last kind of mentor that is alive, really, for Ezra, that is the Jedi term of stuff, of his family. So I don't know. It would just be interesting that, like, it's kind of like the apprentice of the apprentice kind of thing. I don't know.
I just know that there was a lightsaber duel in the first clip that was released, and it looked cool as hell.
Yes.
And I'm like, if that's what you're opening with, and we know there's going to be multiple duels.
Yeah.
You sent me like a screen grab from one of the trailers. We can see there's one point where 2 duels are happening simultaneously.
Right.
And like we know that Ahsoka fights Balin at one point with like the orange and white lightsabers, and they're in like this star map thing
Right.
that they find in one of the other trailers. Which, side note, yes, everyone, I've seen the comparisons between that and the star map in KOTOR. I do believe they are intentional. I believe that is an actual reference to Knights of the Old Republic. But also, speaking of random shit from nowhere, we haven't even mentioned the presence of Professor Huyang, played by David Tennant.
Just a random,
Is in this. David Tennant having a renaissance right now because he's in this, and he's also the interim, spoilers for the end of the latest Doctor Who. Jodie Whittaker's Doctor regenerates back into David Tennant.
Oh.
So he's the Doctor for the anniversary special and is going to lead into Ncuti Gatwa, who's the new Doctor, who's going to be taking over. David Tennant's here. Of all the characters that I did not think were going to pop up in this show.
It is a random character because, so I don't know like the history of the character more than just what I've seen in obviously the cartoons and stuff. Like
we will discuss it at length.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's probably a lot to that character, but it's just funny that this 1,000+ year-old droid is showing up in this just in this show for no reason whatsoever. Well, I guess there probably is a reason, but we just don't know it yet.
I'm sure there is. We just don't know.
Yeah.
Canonically, too, my favorite Huyang fact is the fact that one of the theories that the Jedi have about where he came from is that he showed up in a blue box randomly outside of the temple. That is my favorite Professor Huyang fun fact, is that's one of the theories as to where he came from. Thank you, Mike Chin. You are fucking amazing.
So I love that. Yeah, I love that he's randomly in this. I'm trying to think if we're missing anybody that like could theoretically pop up. We didn't really talk about. Well, we know that Thrawn's coming back. We know
Thrawn's coming.
And it's played by Lars Mikkelsen, so that's already done.
We know probably no Eli, which is a crime.
Which is a shame.
which is a
Because I feel like
crime.
that seems to be like a really good way to tie in at least the novels. You know what I mean? To
I
kind
have
of
a
be like,
theory about that.
okay,
Because Dave Filoni has met with Timothy Zahn a couple of
right.
times, and Zahn has talked about how they're working together on this. So my theory is that we're going to get more Timothy Zahn novels that are going to be taking place concurrently, the way Alliances and Treason did with Rebels, and that
Okay.
Eli and the other Chiss characters are not going to turn up in Ahsoka
Right.
or later seasons of Ahsoka because they're being handled by Timothy Zahn in his novels. He's going to
That
want
would
to
make
handle
sense.
those.
That would make a lot of sense. Now, what I wouldn't give for all of them to show up in the
Now,
show
now
would
I
be
would personally lose my mind if the Chiss showed up in Ahsoka, and I know Twitter would break if that
that would
happened.
be
But I do not
fantastic.
think that is actually going to be what
No,
occurs. I
yeah,
think
no,
that
I don't think so.
they are gonna let Timothy Zahn keep doing that off to the side, and maybe if they're working closer together now, that means that Dave and the other people who make later series of things, Mandalorian season 4, Ahsoka theoretical season 2, Heir to the Empire, will be able to more reference what's happening over in Timothy Zahn's novels with the Thrawn stuff. Kind of a reverse of how like Treason literally contained the scene from Rebels season 4 where he's talking to Tarkin. So kind of the reverse of that, to be able to know this is what Timothy Zahn is doing in his novels. Maybe I'm being optimistic, but I do think there is a lot of respect for Timothy Zahn going on currently, and I'm hoping that translates to more Chiss novels because he set up a whole thing with the Grisk that we never got to.
Which
We never dealt
theoretically,
with this.
I mean, if they do end up doing more, novels, then they could answer that. But it also would be interesting if that was a plot point of this, if Ahsoka show, is that was something that he was dealing with while he was off with space whales or something. Like I don't know. I just
Yes.
feel like it'd be interesting if they
Or
did
or
that.
we could get like an interim time, like Thrawn and Ezra in the 10 years or whatever since
That would be
the end of the
interesting too.
show, them having to fight against the Grisk, which is why they never came back.
That would be
Because
an
they got scooped up
interesting
by the
series.
Ascendancy, and oh no, the
Yeah.
Grisk are like actually doing their invasion.
I kind of like that. I like that as like
I love
instead of
that.
doing a novel that takes place concurrently, the novel series that takes
Do a
place in the
prequel.
interim time, yeah,
I
to
just
this
want to
show.
see. I just want to see Ezra meet some of the Skywalkers. I think that would be so cool. Hell, I want at some point Ahsoka to meet one of the Skywalkers. I think she would lose her goddamn mind. That you remember the bit in the Ahsoka novel where she's talking about how wow, it was kind of super fucked up what they asked us to do as kids.
Right.
Imagine she meets the fucking Skywalkers and finds out what the Chiss are doing to them.
Yeah, and she's gonna be like,
She's gonna be like, "What the fuck is this?
she's like, I thought the
What the
Jedi
fuck
were
is wrong
bad.
with you? Yeah, what the fuck is wrong with you people?" Oh
Oh
my god,
God.
Ahsoka meets Borica. I would go insane. I would lose my mind. Well, Bradley, do you have any sort of final prediction? Well, we do this sort of every time.
Yeah.
Bradley, if you haven't said it yet, what's your wildest theory for the Ahsoka show? The just out of left field, fucking out of pocket shit that it's probably never gonna happen. But we're going with it anyway. What's the absolute craziest thing?
Okay, I've got two.
Okay,
I've got my probably not batshit crazy. It theoretically could happen. I just don't see it happening this season or being a plot point at all. But it could be. It's something that's definitely possible. Is that Barriss Offee shows up at some point
okay.
in this show? Whether it be this season or the next season or whatever. I don't know. I don't think it's actually going to happen. But that would be kind of like my left field character that shows up is Barriss for
Okay.
some reason. Just because of her ties with Ahsoka, I think that would be just very interesting. And yeah, I just think that would be a really good plot for Ahsoka to have to deal with this character, that treated very poorly. So it just would be really nice. And Dave's also said in the past that he would love to do something with that character.
He has
So,
plans. He knows
right.
what happens to Barriss. He just never has gotten around to telling that story.
Right. So I think that would be definitely an interesting character to show up. Now, you're going to hate this next one. And
Oh, I'm sure.
you're going to probably reach into the screen and
Okay,
force choke me, but
let's hear it.
the mysterious inquisitor is gonna be a Star Killer.
Oh,
That's
fuck
my
off.
that's my
Fuck
batshit
off.
crazy
Fuck
left
off.
field.
Fuck you.
If that's who
Fuck
it's gonna
off.
be,
You don't actually think that. You're just saying that to piss me off.
I think that would be a great batshit crazy thing to
Fuck
also
you.
piss you off. And it would
Fuck
be a
you.
great, it would be a nice like
Bitch.
Anakin's apprentice versus Darth Vader's apprentice kind of situation, So
Okay, no, genuinely, I do like that. If they do it, well, I've always said too that one of the things that I think would be funny is if they brought like Starkiller into canon,
Yeah.
just so Ahsoka can kick the crap out of him.
Well, that's a kind
I
of what
think
I
that'd be
mean. Like,
fucking
yeah.
hilarious. I think that'd be so fucking funny. I would lose my mind.
It would be really cool, and I don't know. I like the idea of them doing that. I don't know why that would be. I don't think it'd be bad. And Sam Witwer could come back and play.
Sam Witwer would
Starkiller.
love to play this part again. Sam
And how
Witwer,
amazing would
the
that be?
one of the only redeeming things to Starkiller for me is how much Sam Witwer loves being this character and how much heart he puts into talking about Starkiller and playing Starkiller. He clearly absolutely loves this role. And okay. Here's
And
my
hear me out. Wait, hear me out. And this would be their chance to kind of retcon his story and not make it.
I would be interested.
You know what I mean?
I would be interested to see how you would do that because Starkiller is a character that's very hard to divorce from his story in the context of the broader Force Unleashed. We don't talk about Force Unleashed 2 narrative.
Right.
It would be difficult to do. I'd be curious to see. Here's my out of pocket theory.
Okay.
All right. I also have two. I have one that's likely to happen and one that's not likely to happen. My likely this will probably happen at some point in the show is that Darth Vader is going to physically show up.
Oh, okay.
Either in a flashback or a vision or something, we will see Darth Vader in the suit physically present somewhere in this show.
I don't think that's
that's not super out of pocket.
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
But it's out of pocket enough that I'm going to call it the milder of the two insane theories.
Sure.
Here's my absolutely out of pocket one.
Okay.
We're getting Ventress.
No.
Yes.
You're lying.
Ventress is going to show up somehow. Or she's going to be mentioned, or it's going to be a throwaway line, but we will get Ventress acknowledgement in this show.
I doubt it, because you know what? Dave doesn't like me that
much. That's my out-of-pocket theory.
Out of all the letters I've written to him, I don't think he read them at all, so I don't think that's going to ever happen.
Bradley's having letters of please give us Ventress back mailed to the Lucasfilm headquarters weekly. No, that's my out-of-pocket theory.
That's your out-of-pocket. Okay.
That's
all right,
my out-of-pocket theory.
Ventress versus Starkiller. Let's see
Ventress versus Starkiller. Let's see who shows up. Woo! Alrighty. We are not going to do any pluggables because we are not 100% sure when this episode is going to air. It will be after the conclusion of the SAG-AFTRA strike. So I guess insert future pluggables here. And then Bradley, you want to take us to the socials so you and I can, at long last, watch Ahsoka. Thank you for listening to this episode of Gold Squadron Gays. Did Charles fuck something up? Email us at goldsquadrongays@gmail.com to let us know. You can also find us on Twitter at @GoldSquadGays, and you can find us on TikTok and Instagram at @GoldSquadronGays. You can also find us on YouTube at our Gold Squadron Gays YouTube channel, where we post full episodes of this show. Finally, if you liked the show, don't forget to rate us and give us a review on your favorite podcast platform. That allows other people to find our show. As always, thank you for listening to Gold Squadron Gays, and we'll see you next week.